This is Sexy Funny Raw, where we talk all about the world of sex, from dating and relationships to the adult industry itself, answering all the questions you weren't even brave enough to ask Google. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Sexy Funny Raw. I am your host, Sylvia Sage, and joined with me today virtually is a very special guest. She is a sexual assault and trauma expert, as well as a sex educator and queer media consultant. Please welcome to the show, Jimanekia Eborn.
Hello. I love hearing it. Sometimes I forget what I do and I'm like, yep, I do all those things. Yeah, great.
I know it's such a very impressive thing, just an intro. And then when I found out more about you, it only got more and more impressive. So I know that you have worked in mental health for roughly 16 years. What originally led you down this path?
Ooh, okay, let's buckle up, everyone. I'll make the story quick and clean. I always like to preface it with, I'm going to say a few hard things to give people time to opt in and opt out. So I always state that I am a child of trauma. My mother was murdered in front of me at the age of 1 by my sperm donor. I was raised by her parents, and they gave me adequate information as I was aging. So I've always had information. The most information I got in my 30s when I got the police reports. What led to this work was I wanted to help women and children because I wanted people to have support before they got to that situation. So I studied criminal justice while in undergrad. My third year, when I was 21, I was actually raped. And I always like to say that I have been sexually assaulted more times than I can account for. As people in these bodies with breasts and things, people want to touch us. But I will truly account for being raped once. And I always like to say, I was at home sleeping and I woke up and someone was standing over me with a condom, which breaks up that idea of what were you wearing? Where were you at? I was wearing pajamas and sheets, right? Like that idea. And so I did work in mental health. I worked with juvenile sex offenders. I worked with the elderly. I worked with babies. I worked in Malibu. I worked in Whittier. I worked all over Southern California at this point. But I was getting burnt out because it is hard to do all the things. And so I would take breaks working with babies. I would take breaks working on weddings. Like I put together some weddings. And then I wanted a job that was ever evolving and continuously fun. And I was like, oh, sex. And who knew what that was going to be? But I did become a comprehensive sexuality educator, comprehensive because sex starts in our brain. It isn't just about our genitals. It's about conversation. It's like, where are you at mentally, emotionally? There's so many things that we don't talk about. And so at the age of 28, I was able to combine my love and understanding of sexuality. I've been studying that for as long time, as well as studying psychology, which I also started studying pretty young at the age of 16, to combine that in sex ed, because there's toys, there's lubes, there's all the things as we know, but there's so many of us that struggle to get there because of past things. And so I was like, oh, well, no one's talking about it the way I am. I'm very direct, very clear. I believe that humor allows us to exist. I have a saying that says, if you're laughing, you're breathing. If you're breathing, you're present. And so it's a trick. I've been tricking kids with it and adults, but we're not breathing. So that is how I got here. Trauma got me here.
No, I love that actually. And I'm sorry for your trauma and the loss of your mother. That's extremely significant. And I imagine extremely hard to grow up without having your mother there. I'm very happy you did have your grandparents to step in. I will say I'm also a sexual assault survivor, and I was also assaulted in my sleep, but for years, and by someone very close to me. So I love when I see someone take their trauma, whether it be sexually or even relating to the death of your mother, and not just take it in their victim mentality, but then take it and make it their purpose to change other people's lives, because that's the whole reason I do this show, and that's taking back my sexuality and who I am, my body autonomy as well. So it's so incredibly refreshing to hear that and see that, and to see how successful you've come in this industry. So speaking of your success, you have done so much for other people, not only with your own podcast, the Trauma Queen podcast, which, if I'm correct, aims to normalize conversations around life's hardest moments, including your traumas, sexual and
Hmm.
otherwise, right? But
Yeah.
you've also started a foundation. And I would like you, if you could really
Yeah.
touch on your foundation, Tending the Garden.
Yes, tending the garden. It's always so funny when I tell people. So when I made tending the garden up, I was at my first silent retreat.
Mm-hmm.
And my family's was like, here we go with this shit. So I've done three of them. It's a 10-day silent retreat. You don't look people in the eye. You don't read. I know, you don't read. You don't write. It's vegetarian. We're cleansing. You come out looking
Okay.
snatched, honey, because my
I bet.
skincare, you have shit else to do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and so the first day I came up with the concept, and it's changed a lot. I came up with the concept of wanting to hold a retreat for women of color that needed support. And it, I worked it through. There's no writing, there's nothing. So I just thought about it because that's all I could do for 10 days is meditate and think, meditate and
Mm-hmm.
think. And so I brought it home to my manager at the time and we really like fleshed it out. We had this idea of a retreat for survivors. Quickly I realized there's so many other folks that have been marginalized. And the reason that I say it like this is there are so many people that don't get considered for support. Like people make excuses and overlook. So tending the garden now has multiple pillars. So cis men, they're often overlooked. They're not believed. It's a wild conversation. Sex workers can be harmed.
Mm-hmm.
Sex is you opt into it. When you don't, that is now assault.
Mm-hmm.
I was raped in college, 18 to 25. That is a high rate. We
Mm-hmm.
have the freedom, the drinking, bodies, emotions. It's a crazy time. I wouldn't do it again.
Right.
But so glad I'm ahead of that. We have disabled folks. People are focused on them because they also are vulnerable. We
Mm.
have women of color. We have all of these individuals, not excuse me, non-binary and trans folks, and we have all of these individuals that have really high rates
Mm-hmm.
and people are not having conversations about them. This doesn't take away from other things by any means. I love working with other organizations, but I really just wanted to highlight and make sure that these people existed. So now, tending the garden, we are actually working on our community space, which will be available before the end of June. So follow the social
Amazing.
media. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's going to have support groups and classes and ways to community. And we are working on doing our in-person retreat, which we were originally going to do. And then the pandemic said, no, you're not.
Mm.
And
They just said
so
work on it a little bit more. They
it
didn't
did.
say
It
no.
did.
Yeah.
It did. So, the retreats, they are going to look like whoever the group is for, because we'll rotate. If it is a retreat for cis men, those will be your teachers. We learn better when
Mm.
people look like us. And so
Yeah.
I've had people reach out and be like, but you don't have anything for white women. And I'm like, wow, you don't know white women in college? You don't know any sex workers? And
Yeah.
also, we have a sex positive space because that
Mm.
has been the work that I have done. So why would I
Mm-hmm.
also not allow that community to have a space, right? So
Mm-hmm.
sex positive people are also othered because they think once we've been harmed, we don't want to have sex again. I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
have sex before I was assaulted.
Um, well, I was assaulted as a very young child, so I didn't
Sure,
have that frame of mind. But I mean,
sure.
yes, I also I still want to be sexual. We're still the sexual
Yeah.
beings. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that is what it looks like now.
So I know I'm going to touch back on something you mentioned earlier that I didn't want to forget. And you mentioned that there are certain like sex toys that can help out through trauma and people coming back from a sexual trauma and
Mm,
in ways that they can now use these toys to explore their own bodies. Can you get a little bit more in depth on what type of toys you're referring to?
absolutely. So oftentimes, when we're talking about reconnecting with your body, I have a class, reconnecting with your body after harm, reconnecting with your sexuality. A lot of people are like, well, how do I do things to be with other people? And I'm like, that's the problem. We have to focus on how do we be with
Mm.
ourselves first. And
Hmm.
so that's learning positions. I'm like, lay in bed and move your legs around, right? Like
Right.
that is a cheap thing to do. Lay in bed.
Hmm.
Lay in bed and touch yourself, right? Like figure out what
Hmm.
kind of pressure you like. Figure out where you want to be
Hmm.
touched. Think about maybe things you want to do if you were younger and you haven't had sex, things you have seen or you want to try. See what that feels
Hmm.
like.
Hmm.
And if we are incorporating other people into our bodies, there are a few toys that I do like. And actually, can I grab them?
Yeah,
I do have them.
100%. Yes.
Okay, great.
Okay.
So O Nut is pretty amazing. It's a stacker. It looks like a set of stackers, and you can place it on the penis. Now, it doesn't have to be a bio penis. If you have a strap on, baby, it works too. And the purpose is the wearer still gets the sensation if it's a bio penis, because you
Okay.
would be sticking your penis in here.
Uh-huh.
But if it is going into a vagina, an anus, whatever your life, we're unjudged, we're not judging here,
Hmm.
you get to control the depth. So they're like little stackers, and
Oh,
you get to add how you would like them. And so the entrance of the penis goes here, and you slide it down. So it's kind of like a cock ring. It's like a little
yeah.
sleeve.
Yeah.
So if it is a bio penis, they get the sensation. They're having a great time also. Everyone gets to
Hmm.
be in control. And for survivors, one of the biggest things is having autonomy. Being
Mm,
able to say yes. You get to control what that looks like and what that feels like. And that for me is a big goal. And
hmm.
so this is one of my favorite things. I'm so excited that this exists in the world. And another thing is the nos. It's a cock ring. Now,
Okay.
it's tricky. People are like, oh, it's a cock ring. Sure, yes, it is. But also, if we are starting out with touch, this is also a really cool ring. Fingers can also go on the cock ring. It vibrates. So the tip of it is sensation. I want people to understand what sensation feels like in your body again. Do
Mm-hmm.
these on your self dates. You can run it
Mm,
across your body. You can try it. You can try your nipples, try your erogenous zones, behind your ears, behind your knees. It's weird, we know,
hmm.
but people like it, right? Like
Yeah.
unjudged. Around your genitals, you get to be in charge. And when you want to, you can also have a partner put it on their hands. Again, before
Mm,
we add larger things, and it
hmm.
can be utilized in manual stimulation as well. So I think those are really good tools in conversation. And last but not least, something that I love to have people do for like homework is a yes, no, maybe list, which
Mm,
you can Google. You
yes.
can Google. I think I have one of the longest ones. My friends are always like, what the hell is this? I have one that's like 6 pages long. It's real in depth.
I
I
love that.
found it.
What a
Yeah.
lot of people don't know is in porn we do that. When you get into pornography, they give you this giant list of things and it's a yes no maybe. Like what do you know you're into? What are you open to trying and what's a
Yes.
hardcore no? And I love that list. I try and do that mental list with a new partner
Yeah.
anytime I get them. People look at me like I'm a little crazy, but I'm like, how
No.
hard do you want me to touch your balls first off? And if you do, how hard? Do you want me to suck them? Do you want me to pull them? Am I touching them with my nails? Like, what is the intensity I'm
Yeah.
touching at these areas? And so many people have no idea what
Yeah.
they're comfortable with because you're right. Not enough people get to know themselves before throwing themselves into something with somebody else. And I
Yeah.
find those toys incredibly interesting for one, but I will say I'm a little mind blown because I thought you were going to be showing me almost like strictly, almost kind of like what you were showing me there with the touch, but not in a cock ring aspect because I thought it would all be outside touch. I didn't think that there would be anything that's like the simulation of sex because in my mind I was like, oh, that's the scary part is the
Mm-hmm.
stimulation of sex, but you're just baby stepping them into it, which I
Mm-hmm.
find
Yeah.
very interesting.
Baby
Yeah.
steps, and also it's like trial and error, right?
Mm.
Like, and you get to
Mm.
be in control. As the survivor, we didn't have control. So being able to go, oh, I like this sensation. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
you can only put it in so much. I'm in short
Mm-hmm.
control. I think that's so
Mm-hmm.
fun and playful. It helps build
Mm-hmm.
trust.
Yeah.
And any kind of sex we have, right? Like if you're working or not, you want to be
Mm-hmm.
able to trust that person that they're not going to traumatize you, they're not going to harm
Mm-hmm.
you. And also, we want to enjoy it. You want to enjoy your
Yes.
job. I want to enjoy
Yes.
fornicating.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. So you've mentioned earlier, Eve, think with like tending the gardens, how you kind of bridge things together. And maybe this does have to do with it and maybe it doesn't. But
Hmm.
I noticed in reading about you that you kind of bridge Eastern and Western healing
Hmm.
like modalities in your work. And how my question to you is how do you think these different traditions inform the way you teach trauma recovery?
Absolutely, absolutely. So Western ideals, we are a numbing culture. We're a keep going. Did you take the Tylenol? Did you put the Band-Aid on it? We got shit to do kind of
Mm-hmm.
people. while Eastern medicine is like, well, what's the root of it? What happened? What's the cause? Let's slow
Mm-hmm.
it down and figure it out. Do I think both are needed? Absolutely. But I do
Mm-hmm.
believe that we do need to figure out the root of things, because no matter how many times you try to go around something, it's still there. It's waiting on you like, hey girl, how was that
Mm-hmm.
walk? Still
Mm-hmm.
here.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
and so I like to utilize having honest conversations, being able to be present. It's also about learning your body.
Mm-hmm.
And I like herbs. During the pandemic, girl was stressed. I go to school when I'm stressed. And so I
Mm-hmm.
learned about alternative
Interesting.
medicine. I know well, it could be worse. Could be
It
worse.
could, yes.
So I learned about alternative medicine. And again, it's a lot of like getting into your body, a lot of grounding, a lot of understanding. As survivors, the thing happened to our bodies. So why are we
Mm-hmm.
constantly trying to like talk therapy works? I love it. But also in sessions, you're going to have homework. There's going to be other things. You're going to move your body. I'm like, I believe in dancing. I believe in twerking. I believe in stretching,
Yes.
right? Like
Yes.
all of these things. I believe in sex. If it feels, I
Mm-hmm.
believe in sex with yourself all day, every day.
Releasing endorphins is
A
what your
good
body
time.
absolutely needs. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's all these ways that you can utilize, but also like having conversation and allowing people to
Mm-hmm.
go, "Oh, I didn't know that was an option." What?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite thing.
Yeah. Not just necessarily, you're right, putting a band-aid over it or medicating you to get past this feeling. Let's dive deep into the feeling and why you're feeling it. Right.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's how you figure out how to have tools for it. Like if it comes up
Mm-hmm.
again, oh, I know how to handle this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, what do you think that survivors need more of, either from a social media aspect or from educators like yourself? What do you think that people are missing when trying to recover from something like this?
One, stay off social media. I piss people off with that. Here we go. I am on social media as well. I get it.
Mhm.
But also, everyone can have a TikTok. Everyone can have a damn
Mhm.
Instagram. There's a lot of people that are regurgitating information and it's really
Mhm.
harmful. So, like, sure, listen to people, find out what people are doing, but do your research. Listen to
Mhm.
figure out who you are following. That's really important. Not just because they have a lot of followers, maybe they do some
Mhm.
fun dances while they talk. That doesn't make them understanding.
Mhm.
And as educators and whatnot, my biggest thing is stop creating things that you think people want instead of actually talking to people and figuring out what they need.
Mm.
There's a
Love that.
total difference there.
Mhm.
Right? Like I like to spend a lot of time. I will do polls, I will ask questions, like I will, do a little lunchtime special, like what's going on in the world, because it does change. Resources
Mhm.
change. We have had in this state, in this country, and a lot of people don't know that there are resources for survivors.
Mm.
There is a victims fund that right now is being threatened to be taken away. But every victim of violence, all violence, there is a fund that we can tap into. If you look into it, it's victim compensation. We need to know more about these things and resources. And so
Mhm.
I want, if we're going to be doing the TikTok dances and shit, talk about something we need.
Yeah.
Like you have resources for food if you need to move, if someone needs to go to court, there's
Mhm.
resources for that, but they don't want to tell you. And right now they're being threatened, which is fucking crazy, but they do exist. And I don't think we know that as survivors,
Yeah, I
right?
don't. I'm hearing this for the first time from you right now. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't know that existed.
It does exist, and we can get thousands of dollars. You get support.
Mhm.
And I just marched in DC last year with some of my friends, and it was a whole big march to get that number raised for
Mhm.
everyone across the country, and it did. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with it, but it did get passed that we could get $1,500 or more per person.
I love that. And that, I think any reasonable person would put that towards their mental health and
Sure.
developing ways to cope with the things that have happened to them. I mean, my sexual assault is, over 30 years old at this point. I'm 25, 30 years old at this point, but it doesn't mean that I don't still think about it. It doesn't
No.
still wash over me from time to time. I don't still hear this man breathing in my ear while I sleep. I do, you know?
Yeah.
So it hasn't ever gone away from me. I actually have done a lot of therapy and try and like cope my way through it, but I'm being a big part of what I do with this podcast. I'm still working in sexual entertainment myself, is trying to bring back my own autonomy and,
Yeah.
you know, So it's definitely a hard thing to do. And I feel like a lot of people judge, especially adult performers, for doing it in the way that we have. Because I know a lot of sex performers have had sexual assaults happen to them in the past, and
Sure.
everyone looks at you as damaged. As like, of course she would go into this. Of course this was what she would do. She has all these issues. But what do you think it speaks to a part of for someone like myself, or any type of performer who is bringing their traumas into what they're doing now in a way of reclaiming?
Yeah, I'm first of all badasses, right? Like, right? Like, and let's also note the work is hard. Like,
Mhm.
it's hard enough to, be present and do all the things when you have, like you said, a voice, a breath
Mhm.
that you feel, if we feel triggered in the moment. I
Mhm.
believe that, and I have a lot of friends in the industry. I've dated
Mhm.
people in the industry, and these individuals are regular ass people, right?
Yes. Yes.
Y'all are actually quite boring. Let's
Yeah. Thank you. I became so much more boring once I got into adult and have all the rules.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like my friends. I'd be like, "Can we just get French fries?" The
Yeah.
people I've dated, they want to sit on the couch. Like, we're not
Mhm.
doing all the tricks you see. And so,
No.
understanding, I think as a survivor that chooses to do this work, it is a choice. I think
Mhm.
we all navigate different ways. Like
Mhm.
being able to go, no, I choose this type of sex that I want to have. I get to
Mhm.
choose my scene partners. I get to choose
Mhm.
the positions. I get to choose the lube. Like,
Mhm.
though, I personally think that all of those are building you up to be the person that you want to be, right?
Mhm.
The person, or at least the person you want to show. If, for the
Mhm.
woo woo girls, your rising sign, right? Like, if that
Yes.
is, if that is what feels good for you and that helps to build you up, why not?
Mhm.
People do
Mhm.
jobs all the time that are fillers. So at least do
Yes.
something that you enjoy. Listen, if you've got the assets, you enjoy it, why not? I
Yeah.
don't think there's a problem with it, but I do see, again, this is why we have a whole section supporting sex workers is there's such a stigma of, well, of course you do this work because this happened to you, or of course you're a lesbian, or of course you're queer, you're
Mhm.
gay because of this. I believe that we do the things that we are somewhat destined to do.
Mm.
And people will say, well, who's supposed to be in porn? Whoever wants to be. The same,
Mhm.
you know what? And you're welcome because I know you're watching it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Right? So while they're so busy trying to shame you and you are focused
Mhm.
on, I want to exist, I want to be
Mhm.
seen, I want to be this strong, bad bitch every day, I think that is so amazing. And again, it's not easy work.
No.
It's
Yeah.
not easy work. And
Mhm.
so putting yourself in those situations, but being able to control it, I think it is just individuals reclaiming it. Are there some
Yeah.
people that do sex work for survival? Yeah. But who
Of
doesn't do a
course.
lot of shit for survival?
Yes, 110%. I always tell people I got into it because of money, but I stayed for 10,000 other reasons.
Hmm.
I was one of the people that needed a financial leg up. I was in a bad position, but that's not why I stayed. I've made myself incredibly wealthy, and I have plenty of funds that could last me until I'm old and decrepit, but that's not why I do this. I do this show for free. I've done this show for free for 12 years. I've barely made a penny off of it, but because it means so much to me personally
Mm.
to make sex talkable and make it not so shameful to have people talk about, this type of subject, like
Yeah.
sexual assault and things like that. I want it to be so easy to talk about to anybody. I just don't want people to feel ashamed, or I did for a long time.
Sure.
I didn't come out about my sexual assault until I was 32 when the Me Too movement came out. And then when I came out as identifying my assaulter, I learned of so many more of his victims.
Mm.
And we were all, now we had this a new thing to bond about that we had all hid from the time we were children until we were in our 30s. These women are mothers and wives of their own and hadn't told their husbands this thing that happened to us in our childhood because we all walked around with so much shame,
Shame
thinking
is
we had
powerful.
something to do with it. Yes,
It's
it's
so
crazy.
powerful. Shame is, and I always say that shame and guilt are the two cousins no one wants to hang out with. Shame is like what people put upon us, and guilt is how we continue to hold on to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
first of all, fuck you for both. I was fine.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to hang out with any cousins at all. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sorry that you all have had to do this and are in this weird club together. It's kind of like how
Yeah.
I talk about the DPC, the Dead Parent Club. I have friends that
Mm.
we are all in this club together that no one asked to be
Mm-hmm.
upon it, and you just learn how to navigate it. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad and sad that you do have community in that space
Mm-hmm.
because there's someone that
Yeah.
gets it.
Yeah. They get it. Yeah. Because I think there is a lot of people who, I mean, don't get it. And they do think when you tell them about your sexual assault that you're like, oh, going into this victim mentality. I'm not telling you about it because I want you to
Sure.
think I'm a victim. I'm telling you about it because it happened. It was a real thing in my life and I've moved past it. And I want to empower other people to be able to talk about it and not let it happen to them. Or if it does happen to them, to not sit there in silence and feel ashamed for it, you know?
Absolutely.
A question I do want to make sure that I ask you because I think it's important, especially because there, you know, we know there are 1 in 5 people who are victims of sexual assault, especially 1 in 5 women. My question is when a friend is coming to you and telling you about their experience,
Hmm.
a lot of people don't know how to take that on in a way that represents them being a supportive ally. So, what advice would you give to someone if they are trying to be supportive to their friend who is a victim of sexual assault without playing the victim card for them?
Yes. So first, we all know a survivor.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get that out. Be like, I don't know anyone. You do. You
Mm-hmm.
do, right? And you might also be the survivor that you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of
Mm.
because a lot of us also suppress things because that is the way that we took care of ourselves. And anytime someone's like, I didn't know this happened until years later, and I said, now your body is ready for you to process it.
Interesting.
And so as someone that you might be the first person that person tells. So
Mm-hmm.
take that as a privilege and it do not hit them with the bullshit W's as I call them, the who, what, when, where's, and why's because that might turn into victim blaming.
Mm-hmm.
And that then might stop that person from ever having that conversation again. So, what we do is when someone shares something so deeply that has changed their life, because as a survivor, it changes our lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
We listen to them, we ask them what they need in that moment, right? Or something that I have done in like support groups is do you want to just drop that off? Would you like me to ask questions? And would you like me to offer something?
Mm-hmm.
Because then you're also giving support back to that person. And if they say, I don't know, you can say, okay. And if you do have offerings, this is also what I think people should do. Look what's in your area because, again, you know a survivor. And if you are an amazing, trusted person, one day someone is going to come and tell you.
Mm-hmm.
So be ready. See what kind of resources exist. Google's free. It's been free my whole life. We don't know how long it'll be free because people are weird. But as long as it's free, you can go look sexual assault support, whatever area, or
Yeah.
sexual assault support in my area. Have resources to be available just in
Yeah.
case. And if you don't have shit in that moment, that's also okay. You can just sit and listen
Yeah.
and be honest with yourself. If you don't have it to give, because sometimes I don't have it to give, sometimes you probably don't
Mm-hmm.
have it to give, you can say, hey, thank you for sharing that with me. I don't have the capacity to hold this right now, but is it okay if I come back? And I just want you to know I'm here. That's one
Mm-hmm.
option. And or if they're like, I don't know I don't know. Some people will say things like, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Right? That's that drop
Mm-hmm.
off. I don't want to talk about it. You can let
Mm-hmm.
that person know, thank you for sharing that with me. And if you do need anything, and if you really want to say, if you need anything, be open to it. Or if you do need X, Y, and Z, what you can offer, please let me know.
Mm-hmm.
I will be here. And then check in with that person again because you know what's going to happen? They're going to go, they didn't mean it. I'm not going to ask
Mm-hmm.
for help. They were just being nice. And we often go into feeling too much and we feel like we're taking up too much space. So check back in with that person.
Yeah, I absolutely love that because you're so right. People tell you all day, every day, oh, if you need anything, just call me. I'm here for you. But then when you get into that moment where you're like, damn, I really do need somebody. I need a friend. I need somebody to talk to. You're like, I don't want to bother anybody. They're
Yeah.
probably doing whatever they need to be doing with their day. I don't want to be intrusive, you know?
Yeah.
So you're right. Having that person to check up on you. Wow. I can't I can't imagine how that would make me feel if, except for the fact that I would just feel like a giant hug from that person. I've never had someone do that, but that would
Mm.
feel incredible. So it's interesting too, because I feel like a lot of times look at people who have overcome something and you go, oh, they're so strong. Like
Hmm.
they don't need the checkups, you know, like, oh, they're
They need
doing
the
great.
checkups
Look at them.
more.
Yeah.
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 I
Yeah.
do believe that for a long time for myself, people are like, oh, she's got it. She's doing all the things. She's busy. But I have become someone that's like, no, I don't have it. I need help. Like if I'm going through things, I have my team of people that I'm like, here's what's going on. Like there's my friends don't ever have to question what's going on with me at this
I
point.
love that.
I'm a little
Yeah.
oversharing. Like, let me tell you what I did. I
Yeah.
failed. They're like, okay, bitch. Like,
I'm an oversharer as a weakness as well. So I get it. Uh,
yeah.
I'm also a trauma bonder. So I'm guilty of that as well.
We're
But
understanding. We're understanding of how to navigate. And I think once we
Mhm.
know how we show up, then that is all information. If you're like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm a trauma bonder, when does that start? What does it look like? Who can I do it with? You
Mhm.
start to really define and connect with your people. Because there's some people that
Mhm.
go, wait, what? I don't,
Mhm.
right? And then there's other people that are
Mhm.
like, been waiting on you to tell me.
Yeah.
Sit on down.
They're
I
like
got tea. I got tea. I knew you were coming.
yes. Those are my kind of people, by the way. All right. Well, unfortunately, we are wrapping up on time here, but I know you have a few things that you want to plug and talk about. So if you want, feel free to do that now.
Yes. So I also co-own an intimacy coordinator training company called
Okay.
Sentima. We were just featured in the New Yorker. We have a training coming up. So sentima.co is the website, is the social media. If you've ever thought about becoming an intimacy coordinator, we have a lot of sex workers that we train as well because it's needed. We are
Mhm.
predominantly online company, and then you have to come to LA, fourth module, which we'll be doing this week, which I'm excited about. If you ever want one-on-one support, if you want to talk about things, the hard things are my jam. You can go to traumaqueen.love to find out, get in my business, find out
Mhm.
more about me, go do the things, use your friend Google. And if you want to follow me on social media, it's all Jimanekia because there's only one of me, Jimanekia. If you can spell it, you can find me.
Yeah, I love it. You are such a fantastic guest, so insightful. And I really hope everyone goes and checks out your work and attends your seminars. And I'm so grateful for your time. So thank you for doing the show with me today.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, that's it for today. If you liked what you saw, click and subscribe. And until next time, adios.